who, 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 who ready? We ready. Who ready? We ready. Who ready? Who? We ready. Who? Who ready? Who? We ready. Who? Motivation to youth only. Mentally feel like Kobe. I'm like Jokic with the rock. You physically couldn't hold me. I don't care if you push a 40. You can never little bro me. You're on step like Ginobili. From young OG to the OG. From nosebleeds to floor seats. Circle stronger than Cuban links. My gold dance, your gold plated. You verse me, now that's a reach. We ready. Who ready?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the One-on-One Sports Show here on the Black Mountain Unfiltered Network. I'm Mr. Bennett. Hopefully, I'll be joined by the posse as always. Those two boys from Dallas, as well as my man, the OG Coach Ferg. Hopefully, they're on the way. But I just want to get the show started. Thank you all again for joining us tonight. Certainly, we ask that certainly as you come in tonight, make sure you hit the like button. Certainly, as you come in tonight, certainly it supports the algorithm as we come in. And as well, consider dropping a cash app certainly to the Black Mountain Unfiltered Network. So we'd appreciate that, and also our individual cash apps. So again, as we go through, if you appreciate the content that we bring you personally, we'd appreciate anything that you give us in this space here. And certainly our first partner certainly joined us tonight, brother Shawnee. How you doing, sir? What's going on?
What's up, Mr. Bennett?
Yes, sir. So again, waiting for the other guys to come in, but we're gonna get this show started. But again, just make sure you hit the like as you come in. Really appreciate your support tonight. But yeah, let's start with certainly, obviously, with the NBA Finals starting tomorrow. So again, we were looking at a show that was being targeted certainly towards that. But the big news that I think certainly rocked once again, I guess, the NBA world is Tom Thibodeau of the Knicks. After 5 seasons, is fired. Came in 5 years ago, was coach of the year. Here you see the comparison in terms of the woes of the Knicks, all the coaches that they went through, certainly over the years, certainly under the current owner, James Dolan, and his stewardship. The only one who had any success was Mike Woodson from 2012 to 2024 with 7 playoff wins. Tom Thibodeau, again, 24 playoff wins. First back-to-back 50-win season for the Knicks in 30 years since 1994-95 season. And obviously getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, upsetting and beating pretty dominantly, I would say. Certainly the Boston Celtics, this was, they were already in command of the series before Jason Tatum got hurt. And, certainly, there were a couple wins from getting to the finals for the first time since 2000. Since 1999. So, again, this was a major upheaval. A lot of people weren't expecting it, but this really surprised everybody. I was surprised, certainly at the firing, and then hearing all the talking heads talking about it. But certainly wanted to get into this a little bit. So, Shawnee, certainly, what was your thoughts on the firing? And and we'll talk into where the Knicks go from here. But was this right time to let him go? Bad time? I mean, what are your thoughts on the situation in New York?
I wasn't really surprised by it. I wasn't rooting for him to be fired, but wasn't really surprised because I've seen teams do this in the past where they seem to kind of be banging their head against a wall, even if they're making relatively deep playoff runs, but they keep banging their head against the same wall, and they bring in a different voice, and it potentially can change their, you know, their fate or whatnot. You saw that in Detroit when they won a title, when they had Rick Carlisle was the head coach. He was having success, but he hit it like a valley, well, a wall that they couldn't break, so they brought in a different voice. Larry Brown went to win a title. Uh, you even though he was there basically building, but you saw it with Avery Johnson and Rick Carlisle when he led the Mavericks to a title. I think it was Avery Johnson who was coaching, and I think that was like the relationship between him and Dirk was kind of souring though. But you seen it even in different other different sports. Tampa Bay Buccaneers when it was Tony
So
Dungy,
it's Tony Dungy, and then they let him go, and
and
then they
they
brought in
so you
Kentucky.
see it in sports that a team will hit some type of wall, even though they're making play a relatively deep playoff run, but they just bring in a new voice and it kind of guides them to new levels of success. So uh now it's kind of different with the Knicks because as you can see, these coaching history is just it's terrible. And Thibodeau was the main one who brought them out of that funk. So you'll figure they'll at least honor his contract in full. You'll hopefully they'll do that. From what I heard, was Sean's reported that Dolan and the president just had a meeting pretty much right after the game when they lost to Indy, and between them two right there, they pretty much said, "Okay, we're gonna turn the page." So, because I remember, I think there was a reporter tried to ask Bronson about what he think of Timberwolves on the hot seat, and Bronson was 100% against them letting them go.
Mhm.
But it was just between the up top, and they just so I've seen it before in sports, but with this particular franchise, it's not like they have a history of making good coaching hires. Thibodeau was the main person who was responsible for putting them on the map again. Because after that, it was an afterthought. They wasn't doing anything besides the time Mike Wilson was head coach. So you can see everybody else straight zeros. And yeah, so I can see now if a team moves away from a coach, at least they let him finish the season, unlike the Nuggets and the other teams, which is then their coaches go in mid-season. But if a team does this immediately after the season, I'm expecting them to have a hell of a coach and plan for him pretty much immediately. You just don't make this type of firing on a successful head coach and you sitting there doing research, you having a coaching search. Nah, you better have your replacement already lined up.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you should have just left what you had because you was having success. It was just a matter of can Thibodeau get his team to the next rink, which is the finals. But if they don't have nobody in mind that they can go after and pretty much feel like they'll come get the job, then yeah, that is a different story. That would be like, okay, this was a way premature move.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm mostly against the move. For one reason, I don't think he hit a wall. People talk about hitting a wall, and I understand what they're saying. That's if you keep getting to the same point and don't get any further. Again, last year they didn't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, so you could say this year was an upgrade over last year, and they did it by again knocking off the defending champions last year. These other coaches, when they hit a wall, you had the who was the coach from Phoenix when they went to the finals against Milwaukee a couple years ago. Again, you get to the finals, but again, you can't get over the
Oh,
hump.
Monty Williams.
Right. So there's a lot of coaches who've gotten it. You talked about Avery Johnson, the coach for the Mavericks. Again, he got to the finals against Miami, and again couldn't get back. So I understand that even the guy Malone who just got fired in Denver, again won his finals last couple of years. Again, couldn't get back to that door again. So I don't consider that just hitting the wall. I mean, show me that at least get to a place you can't get back to. But again, the fact that he brought them out of the doldrums, given just a woeful coaching record, that's why I showed it here, of all these coaches, some of these guys, Hall of Fame coaches, Lenny Wilkens, Larry Brown, certainly they couldn't get it done. So I think it might be a little premature on that end. My only thing with him could have been, again, the decisions that were made. Now, again, a bouncing ball that went 9 feet in the air in game one and dropped in at the end to take the game into overtime. You could have been talking about a 7-game series and possibly the Knicks winning because they would have had game 7 at home, so they would have got to the finals. I'm not saying that they would have won the finals, but I'm just saying, certainly circumstances were such. And again, I don't hold him totally blameless for that. I mean, again, we all know about his low rotation. You had Kenny Smith from TNT said that he wouldn't field the 9-man baseball team. he wouldn't.
9 men on the field.
Yeah, right. He wouldn't have 9 men on it because he only plays 5 or 6 deep. But again, it's not like they have a great bench. Their bench is horrible, and the guy Rosen, the GM, you know, I gotta hold him responsible for that. I mean, he traded
Yeah.
four unconditional first round picks for the guy who used to play for what he played for
Bridges.
Bridges from Brooklyn. I mean, how have you sank your future in that regard? So who are you going to have your bench? Who are you going to bring in that's going to bring you some production? So you could say on one end he's got to work with it. Now the only thing I disagreed with, I think, was game 2 where he didn't bring Cat in. Now again, woeful on defense, him and Brunson. Very bad on defense, and obviously the guy is a defensive minded coach, but he certainly the players that he has and the starters are not good defensively. But again, you leave Cat. It's a tightly contested game. Leave Cat out until like less than 2 minutes in the game before you bring him back in. He's basically arguably your second best scorer, and you bring him in late. So again, some of his coaching moves in this series certainly you can question. But again, the players got to make plays. If the Knicks the game 1, they would have made another free throw or 2. That game would have been out of reach. So again, I definitely think this was premature, and it's just this trend where these GMs are coming in and saying, well, no, it's not like the coaches are bad. I mean, look at these guys for the Knicks who've had several years to. I mean, Isaiah Thomas had 2 seasons with the Knicks, and I'm like, didn't deliver anything. But it's like success isn't success anymore. I mean, it's so I don't know what these guys are looking for. But the other thing that bothers me, again, I live in obviously New York, New Jersey area, and the Dolan family is pretty much panned in this area. I mean, awful the way they treat former players. Remember when one of the players was escorted from the game? One of their it wasn't Mason. It was Charles Oakley escorted from the building because he said something against Dolan or whatever. So he kicked him out. Again, very petty in terms of how he's run this team over the years. And so again, had it not been for this woeful record, I might have said, okay, if you think you've gone enough with him, and if you're looking at some of these newer coaches and strategies with deeper benches and whatnot, if you don't think he can get you there, fine. But again, just given the woefulness of this management and organization, I just think this is just an awful move, and I just don't think that this he deserved to lose his job. But I get it, business is business. But yeah, let's get into certainly the next.
Well, real quick, I think
yeah.
when I mention like him hitting the wall, I think it's his coaching style, his philosophy, and I
Right.
think that's the wall that they're looking like. Okay, you not. It's like he was forced to play his bench this series, but they wasn't as effective as the two teams
Because they're
around him.
bad. Because
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
bad. I mean, that's
And
the,
even if
and
I think
again,
even
you
if he
said
had a quality players on his bench, he just still.
maybe we'll never know, will we? We'll never know with the moves that's been. Now, look, I know it from Chicago and whatnot. I know, certainly, I get it. That's his coaching philosophy. But again, you can't argue with the success that he had. Certainly certainly they've advanced pretty much every year since he's been there. Gardens sold out, fans and everything, certainly packing it out and everything. You saw how jubilant they were against my Celtics after beating them, thinking that they won the championship already. So certainly I had some things to say.
That's why I said
against
whoever
that.
they have coming up, they better have somebody immediately, like a notable head coach that's going to come and backfill this position, because they're doing any type of coaching search after this. Like, nah, you should have kept who you have. It was
All right.
working.
Well, let's go into the next block then. So again, who is next? So again, these are some names that have been bandied about a potential. Now, again, it seems like Jay Wright. I think certainly a shout out to Trey Fairways, certainly in the building. So again, Jay Wright. I mean, that would make a lot of sense. I mean, a lot of these guys are his former players from UConn. And certainly that could make some sense. But we talked about Hurley. He's always been a hot prospect. We always talked about him last year with the Lakers, and that situation. Brunson, who's the father of Jalen Brunson, currently the bench coach, has a good relationship. Now again, I put Mark Jackson. I'm always going to float Mark Jackson's name around. Now again, I don't know what he did in Oakland, where he basically became the pariah of the league, blackballed in the league. I don't know. I remember seeing some video. He was basically proselytizing on the streets of Oakland with some people. So I don't know if that did it for him or whatever. But again, it's a hometown fit, played for the Knicks, St. John's University. You saw what he did with Golden State, and you can make an argument there. He got Golden State, maybe he hit a plateau with them, and then Steve Kerr took him to the next level. That maybe that's what they're thinking. But certainly he's a prospect as well. So certainly out of these guys, who do you think is next? Is there another guy I might be missing? So I know somebody was mentioning Ime Udoka, but I don't think Houston's letting Ime go anytime soon. You better lock him up for like the next 5 years if you're going to be thinking about it.
He's going to do that. He is very fond of Udoka, so who knows? Udoka may have some sense of loyalty with him because the Rockets was the one who picked him up after this is kicked out of the door from Boston unexpectedly. So out of these 5 coaches, Hurley, I think he already mentioned I think he wants to be a college coach.
Mhm.
Jay Wright, I think he may be enjoying. I don't know if he's mentioned anything about wanting to come back to coaching, but he was a college coach, he retired from that, and he's doing some analysts and whatnot.
And I'm sorry, he was at Villanova. I mentioned UConn earlier. Correction, he was at Villanova, not UConn. So.
Yeah, Hurley up at UConn now. Bronson, I never thought about him even.
Jalen's not going to argue with it. So,
you should have kept saying if you get Bronson, man. That's almost what the Cowboys did by getting Shoddy when they let go of what's his name before. So, but Mark Jackson, I guess he's just on there by default. I think every coaching position that's open, people have his name there. I honestly think the best out of this 5 is Malone. Because we know Malone can coach.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know because the GM was let go right after he was let go, Calvin Booth up there in Denver. So I really don't know, because I know him and the GM didn't get along, but when they both got kicked out the door, I really don't know what was going on in Denver. I guess they just want to change. I don't really know, but I thought they'd at least let him play the season out. But it's no secret, Mike Malone is a hell of a coach. I will go for Malone. Out these 5 right here. Now another one who's not listed on here is Taylor Jenkins, who is also a good head coach. So I would take Malone and Jenkins, who is not pictured, and I really go because both of them got prematurely let go unexpectedly by their respective teams.
Mhm.
And I mean, the Knicks are for the most, they're not a young team. They're a veteran team. They're like in that middle. Like a lot of their players on their primes. So I think Monty Williams will be a good potential coach because Monty Williams don't really do young teams, but he likes vet teams.
Right.
I think the Knicks fit in that mold, and a lot of them just on the younger side of it, so he can have some years with him.
Yeah.
But I'll say Malone, Taylor Jenkins, and a wild card will be Monty Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see how any of those guys necessarily get you necessarily over the top per se. None of those guys, like I said, the Jay Wright hire because again, it's familiarity with the players. Again, Brunson, who's certainly knows the team well, has got got good relationships with those guys. I could see that, but again, those seem like more horizontal moves more so than vertical ones, and certainly Monty Williams. Again, got his team there, but certainly didn't perform the spec, and certainly had a almost a super team. I think was he fired before KD got there? Was it after?
No, yes, it was before.
Okay.
He led his team to the finals,
right?
And I think that at the end of that season they let him go.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. But again, I see some of these guys as horizontal moves. Will it get you over the hump or not? It remains to be seen. And again, the Knicks, and again, the fact that if you're gonna let go of him again, the GM set this team back many years with that trade for Bridges. So again, the fact that he gets to stay, if you want to talk about going to the next level, you see the deficiencies of this team, despite the fact that they can score. You see their deficiencies on defense. You see Cat is hurt like half the time. So I don't know what he's going to be battling and dealing with. I mean, do you cut your losses now? But again, what trade assets do you have to go out? We talked about Giannis certainly as a free agent. I mean, if maybe had they not traded those assets, maybe he could certainly be a potential pickup for the Knicks. But they have very few assets which with the deal, and so I'm like, why does he keep his job? But again, you let Thibodeau go. So again, if you're going to clean house, then clean house. But this GM, I think, has done more damage long term to the Knicks than Budenholzer certainly has. But shout out to the coach in the building tonight. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
What's up, fellas? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So again, so I don't know if you heard certainly the news. So with the Knicks firing Thibodeau. So first of all, what are your thoughts on that? And secondly, who do you think may be the next head coach of the Knicks?
I'm not surprised when they let Thibodeau go. I saw it in his interview. It was almost like, yeah, they need to fire him because he took no responsibility. He was saying what everybody else needs to do, and that's true. Cat, he parties too much. His belly's too big. He need to get his shoulders together, get his torso together, do some push-ups on his fingertips. And he's a solid, he can play. His offensive game is tough, but he need to work on his slide defense and use his wingspan. When he's on defense, he should only be down low to me. I don't care if he shouldn't even be in the pick and roll because his feet are too flat and too big. He can't turn. But, the Knicks, they had a good season. I think they exceeded expectations. It's just it's New York.
They did.
And, they gave away too much, like you said. And Thibodeau, I never liked Thibodeau since he hurt Derrick Rose. And he ain't gonna get you nowhere. He ain't gonna get you. He might get you to the playoffs, but I'm glad they let him go. As far as the coaches that out of that group, if I was going, I think that they would give it to the Villanova ex-coach. I just believe that because I don't see them letting Brunson coach his son, which could be a first and it'd be unique. But Mark Jackson, they know they stole Golden State from him. That's what they did. So it was just, but who the Nuggets old coach, he could, Mike Malone, he had his chance. I don't know why Denver fired him, though. He going to get picked up again. He going to get another job. Who was the other guy? What was the other guy's name? It was five.
Brunson, who's basically
I said Brunson, Jackson,
right.
Jay, what's his name? Jay
Right.
Villain,
Mike Malone.
Right, Mike Malone, and who's the other guy?
Malone, yeah.
What's the other guy? No, what's the other guy?
Hurley from
UConn.
No, he ain't gonna. He gonna stay in college. He gonna come back in maybe another year or two when this rotation of class will go out. Then he'll probably join the NBA. But no, man, I would see him giving it to the old Villanova coach because they'll, he's almost like us, but he ain't. But Johnson, yeah. Yeah, Doc Rivers coached. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't see Brunson though, but Doc Rivers is a legend. Like, I mean, he ain't a legend. He's a decent, been on some championships. Brunson, I don't know, but listen, they just need to get Cat in shape in the draft, get a big man and another point guard. You might have to let Hart go, but ain't nobody gonna pick him up. He's a hustler. You need him. Abadoli, he's good. Just work on your rotation. Like I said, you can't win no games with 8 men all season. It don't work. All them players in the NBA for a reason. Use their
but that bench is not very good though. And
again, it all depends though. What team?
Like I said,
Oklahoma City's bench is good because they play.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the Knicks aren't. That's my point. Like
but Brother Bennett, what I'm saying is that they on the 12-man team. Early in the season, they should be getting some of those minutes, even if the game is close. That's how OKC, if you watch their coach, he just rotate them like everybody get their minutes. And when they get out there, they all hustle. And you see, so, yeah, it's just bad coaching. It's bad coaching. You got to let, especially in the NBA, you got to let everybody just play. You get 5 minutes. You might get 5 minutes in the first half. Okay, cool. If you score 8, you good. You might get back in if we up by, but if you ain't, you off, you on the bench. I'm going to let my stars shine, but Cat too fat. He's too fat. He's too fat, I'm telling you.
That's a new meme right now. Cat's too fat.
Yeah, he is. He's too fat. If you watch how he's staying like a lot. He's staying. So he's too slow. And once he get this upper body together and stay off the streets, they'll be better. They can't get him. They ain't got enough. They traded
That
all their assets away to a second tier player.
yeah. So
Bridges, ain't he second tier? He ain't even
Yeah, he's not
close to
even an
all
all-star.
star.
He's not even an
I
all-star.
know
Yeah.
I know one of our topics we talked about super teams, and that's usually
Yep,
about
yep.
these
Yep. We
notable
getting there. We
names.
getting there.
But yeah, but they did that to Bridges, who is not really a notable name, and they only have in the upcoming draft. They're only going to have one pick, and that's the 50th pick. So
Yeah.
50th, second. What's that?
I
Yeah.
don't
So
think
again,
It's the
Rose.
so
second
why does
round.
Yeah,
why
the
does
second
this
round. Yeah,
GM still have a job? That's the quandary that
that's
I'm in.
Dolan.
There's
That's Dolan. That's Dolan.
Yeah. And again, and as long as he owns the Knicks and he's not selling, in fact, he is so immovable in New York, the government can't, because ultimately what they're trying to do is they're trying to redo New
Oh,
York Penn
Madison
Station.
Square. Yeah.
Yeah.
They try to
And
redo that.
Madison Square Garden sits on
Sit right
top of
in
it.
the
They
middle.
can't do the expansion, but because of some stuff that goes all the way back to his dad and whatnot, this government can't get in the move. They've offered him, like, look, we'll relocate MSG or we give you, the pick of New York where you want it. He doesn't want to move. But I mean, but the train station is crumbling. I mean,
Yep.
it is woefully behind. The whole area is like 100 years old. And they
He's
can't
grandfathered in. That whole
Yeah.
site right there is grandfathered in. So he
Yeah.
ain't
he
he gonna
can't
take it to his grave.
Exactly. So and that might be the only way to get over this is if he goes to his grave, and then hopefully his his descendants are going to be a lot more reasonable as far as what needs to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, the governor tried to roll out the red carpet for him, but he won't move. It's not it's
Can't build around it.
I'm saying the train station is just one thing. I'm just saying the fact that the leadership, you're not going to see any changes is the point.
Infrastructure. The infrastructure of all that needs to be updated to 2025. And with that
Right.
train and the stadium, they can have so much going on down there that it'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, but but the thing is, it's almost his success though. Knicks fans show up whether they're good or bad, so that's the thing too. I mean, so he's got no reason. He's got a cash cow that's literally sitting on Penn Station, and he simply just doesn't want to move. But again, the way he runs the organization is such where you hope for the best, but we'll see what happens. But I've been trying to bring up the slides, but let's just go to the next topic because for some reason I can't get my entire slide deck to load. So let's talk about this idea of these the end of these super teams. So again, obviously with this NBA Finals, for a lot of people who complain about super teams and whatnot, here you had two teams sort of built from the ground up for the most part, with the exception of Indiana. Obviously, they got Pascal Siakam from Toronto, but certainly when you had Miami did it, when you had LA did it. Not only they did it twice. Remember go back to 2004, they tried to build a super team too. The problem is everybody was old on that team. When they had Karl Malone and those guys, they tried to do it. Brooklyn tried to do it. You had the Celtics with their big three tried to put this together. But is the formula now from what we're seeing in terms of who's in the NBA Finals now? Is the era of the super team over? And is the model now going to be this where you have a much deeper roster, you built it over time, and now this is the result. So Shawnee, you certainly wanted to entertain the topic, so you can certainly lead off with your thoughts on this.
Well, me personally, I do and kind of hope and believe that the super team era is over because a lot of the players who were pretty much mainly responsible, a lot of the super team era basically is during LeBron's time and was the height of it. And a lot of those players who was moving around and using their power like that, they're the older. So if you trade for them, there's a high chance that they can suffer like nagging injuries that can pretty much water down their value once they get to your respective team. And then now, in today's super team time, many of them just they sacrifice so much. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you good?
Okay. They sacrifice so much when they do trade for these players. And if you don't have to trade them, if they sign them off of free agency, they sign them to a mega deal. So then that will compromise their bench. So you see it with the Lakers. You definitely saw it with Phoenix, and you saw it with Brooklyn. Even though that experiment was just terrible. But many of these, you even seeing it with the Bucks per se after they traded for Dame. You know, they traded for a player who was great in Portland, but once he came to Milwaukee, because he was an older player, a little bit older, he started not in injuries. He was more prone to injuries and whatnot. So it's just better to build your team. You need a capable front office for one. You need a capable front office who not only can build via the trade, but if they're going to trade for a young player, have a good eye for a young player. That's what OKC did when they traded Paul George and for a whole pack of players that included SGA. And that trade was really driven by Kawhi with the Clippers. So it's like, and I see, yeah, KD, Giannis, if he goes to a team, they're gonna sacrifice a lot for him. So that's the whole thing. But with Giannis, if he goes to a team, what team will he be going to?
Him and KD can link up. KD is at the end of his career, right? Giannis is right in the middle, but if they link up, because if KD chooses to go to another team, because a lot of them guys talk, and that would be interesting to see those two, because Giannis, it's up to him, and if they can form a team, so be interesting.
And that's the biggest thing. Okay, you got KD and Giannis, but who are they? What other teams going to build? Basically, you're going to have them two. You're going to put all your weight on them two players.
Yep.
Versus a great team. You see OKC. I still don't think a KD and a Giannis led team is going to be the team like OKC
or Indiana. They're too old.
They're not going to have the other pieces around.
But
OKC can, yeah.
But when you was talking about the teams, right? You saying they should build. No, this is something most of y'all never seen in the NBA. Teams coming from everybody on that team has made a name for themselves. And if you look at it, a lot of them ain't even really scorers and all-star averaging 25 and 30 out of this 10 guys right here. All of these dudes were almost thrown to the wolves at some point in their career. Except
we saw that with Golden State was like that. Even before,
but Golden State they had Steph and Clay, but they won. Yeah, so they won championships before KD got there, right? So this team, OKC, has never won it. Indiana, has they ever won it? No. So
they never won it. No.
And what's the average age on both of these teams? Look like what, 26 and younger? Nobody over 27 on these teams, really, except
Siakam. Both of these two teams will be the youngest teams in NBA.
Yes.
I think since the early 70s.
But the NBA is finally coming to what I always wished it would become, where you have a team of 12. This is the best players in the country. And you got your 2 or 3 stars. Everybody else is just running and gunning. Running, rebounding, steals, and gunning. The way Caruso played, that's the way OKC play. Even Holmgren, he might get his shot blocked, but he'll come down and block 2 or 3. Nobody's looking to score except Gildress. Everybody else is just spotting up and playing good D. That is the formula of the NBA. Even with Indiana, you got Hillenbrand. They said he wasn't really worth all that hype. Now look at him. He's shining with the team, and he's going to be an all-star from here on out.
Yeah, so that was like OKC when they traded for SGA, Indiana, because Siakam was supposed to be player A on the Pacers. And then they went to go get Halliburton from the Kings. They traded for him. And then they end up meshing. Now they just go back and forth between 1 and 2 between
it
players.
Basketball.
So I believe that the way basketball is now, the way that the teams are having success, I know both teams in the finals are obviously deep teams. You had the Rockets, who had a good season. They're a young team. They building. Orlando good young team. Detroit, good young team. Boston is in the middle, but their thing was money. They had like a perfect blend, I think, with prime players and experience, but money is going to be the main thing that's pretty much going to just going to change the fate of that squad. We don't know
Now
how.
Boston's locked in. Boston's locked in for the next 3
Yeah,
or
but
4
they're
years.
going to lose, and Mr. Bennett could probably speak on this more better. They're going to lose some key players by the beginning of next year just because they can't afford them.
Yeah.
So we don't know what Celtics.
Who all's under contract? It depends on who. If
Well,
you
the
ain't
big
under
two-
contract, you might not
big
get no
two,
money.
Drew Holiday.
Brown and Tate.
Tatum.
But again, but a lot of those guys are old. They're gonna have to put those guys off anyway because he's old. You got the center. He's old. The Porzingis is constantly hurt or whatever. So they're gonna have to fill some pieces before they can sin again. They may have to kind of take a step back before they can step forward. And again, even with the Achilles tear from Tatum, you just don't know how he's going to come back from that. So again, that's just going to be a wait and see. That's definitely going to be a wait and see situation. So I think that as far as the idea of the super team, I think it's hit or miss. Obviously you had probably Miami might have been the most successful example of that because again they won multiple championships. Again, LA did it during certainly during the pandemic that 1 year, but it hasn't happened often with these teams. Got to get even the Celtics with the big three, they only won one. And they lost to the Lakers in 2010. So it's not a guarantee that you put these guys together and that this thing is going to this thing is going to work. So again, but for the cost that you're paying these guys, I think the worst case was probably Brooklyn. That was just a disaster. That mix of personalities there.
Charlotte. I think Charlotte.
That
worse.
You think Charlotte was worse?
I think Charlotte. I think Charlotte's all because the last 20 years they've been at the bottom every year. They get top 5, top 10 draft picks, and DMU.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think. We're
one of the best.
We're gonna certainly preview the finals certainly before the end of the show. I'm not saying certainly as far as the point is you need that villain. That super team is the villain, but again, sometimes the villain has to win. And I'm just saying, how often does that? Like I said, since the Miami Big Three, I haven't seen sort of this formula work because again, a lot of times when you are able to get to that super team status, these guys are older, and I mean, you figure when KD joined Phoenix, because you had an emerging star in who's the point guard over there. They were supposed to wreck the league, and they haven't really done anything. Booker. He was a guy who was lighting it up, and
he just completely destroyed their team.
He shoot too much.
And then who was the center they had over there? That the center that they had.
They let him go to Portland.
Yeah,
they let the center go.
Yeah, the big guy. They let him go. So again, it's not a guarantee. It's just not. But certainly, what we're seeing now, I think certainly if you're a basketball purist. Certainly, I think the games will be exciting in themselves. I get it. New York market may not, or LA market may not be interested. But again, you got the reigning MVP, certainly in that series. I mean, and certainly Halliburton has certainly emerged, even with his dad and all the controversy there. He's certainly emerged. He's got his name out there. So again, I think as long as the games are good, I think you're going to be. I think hopefully we'll all be pleasantly surprised at what's going on. But just moving on to a couple more topics before we get into, obviously we'll end the show with previewing the series, which starts tomorrow. Obviously there's a couple big stories that are going on right now in college sports where they're talking about expansion, certainly both with the college football playoffs as well as, shout out to Dante, good evening, sir. Where they're actually talking about by next year a 16-team bracket. So first we were supposed to go to 12. Now they're talking about a 16-team bracket. And from your very own Dallas Morning News, I was able to grab this snippet here. So they kind of had a highlight of what this would have looked like if this year you had 16 teams. I guess what they're saying is you would pretty much have the same or similar outcome that you had before. But I just don't see, I mean, obviously, what do you think that the motivation is here? How much more revenue, especially when you talk about these bottom feeders coming from like Texas Tech, Illinois, Tulane, is that really going to draw more numbers more viewers to the screen? than what they currently have now. I think there's something with more is not necessarily better. And just conversely, on the NCAA the basketball side, they're talking about going to a 72, if not 78 team tournament, which again, I don't see how that gets your numbers back because if anything, for the college basketball game, you could almost make a case they need to go back down to 32 maybe. Because again, we've seen how the numbers have plummeted with college basketball, certainly over the last few years. And I don't see how growing it to 78, again, what is that going to do to grow viewership, even your national championship game, which certainly, certainly was decent. Again, there hasn't been the buzz there. Certainly in the college game, the women sort of took over for a minute with all the drama with LSU and in Iowa, and then you had Staley with South Carolina. They kind of had the stage for a minute, so I don't see how that helps you either. So just generally, gentlemen, what do money's always going to be involved, but I just don't see how this moves the needle. But what's your thoughts? Start with Shawnee, and we'll just work it down.
One, this whole move is 100% about the money. And remember, I know this is just a example bracket, but now what's has been ruled and will happen is that the seeding will change to rankings. So all that confusion if you're a conference winner and whatnot, but you kind of lower in the rankings. Now they're just going to top four teams in the rankings going to be top four seeded teams. So they're straight, straighten that out. Um, Now, what I did like about the 12 teams, I did like that the teams that were in the that did not have the first round buys, the higher seed was able to host a playoff game at home. I did like that. That was a different aspect, So if you expand to 16 teams, I imagine it's just going to continue all the way down. The higher seed in each game is going to host a playoff game. So that right there will, well, at least locally for sure, is going to definitely have the money taken care of, and it's college, playoff and football. So I think all the games for the most part. 'Cause I believe people were saying the same thing when they stretched it out to 12 teams this past season, and people were still watching those first games of the playoffs. So if it's a 16 game season, they will still watch those first games of the playoffs. So I think the views are going to be there. I don't think it's worried about the views, but I think if you a fan that looks at the product as a whole, maybe it'd be like watered down football as far as you like to see in the playoffs. We in college football you kind of maybe spoiled because normally there's only four teams, the four pretty much best teams in college football. But if you stretch it all the way down to 16 teams, you may have some games that maybe down there looking like UFL football. You're like, man, who is this? Especially if it's like a lopsided on paper where it's like a traditional team, powerhouse team that maybe just kind of fell out the top half of the seeding, but then they also, end up playing like a Tulane. You're like, okay, congratulations, Tulane. You can say, I guess you participants in the 2026 playoff bracket, but now you about to play a team like, I don't know, USC, and then you'll see this. In college football, they still do have mismatches. Especially when only the ones that have any type of, you know, they on a level playing field are the traditional bloods in college football. But if you stretch it to these 16 teams, you will potentially have a traditional power versus this new kid on the block, and you will see immediately why next thing you know, you'll have Colorado State in the playoffs for one real reason. So that's the only thing that can potentially happen when you want to keep stretching out. Basketball is one thing because it's March Madness. We've seen it over the years. A team just get hot and another team can't make their shots. The lower seed teams can make 3 pointers or whatever, and they just beat them in that one game. But football, if a team literally has just a better athletes on the other side of the ball, it's got to be a super perfect storm for the lower seed team to beat them.
Mhm. Dante,
What's-
we both on.
You're muted, Dante.
Dante, you muted. You
Appreciate
muted, Dante.
Appreciate I'm still muted.
No,
Okay,
you're good now.
so I always felt that like the perfect number was 8. So when they went to 12, I felt like it was too much. And to be honest, I can say it's too much. I'm still gonna watch all the college football. I'm gonna watch all of it. Only thing is, I'm glad that the one won't face like the 16, because then it would look just like it does in college basketball. But I think letting those other teams in, that basically makes that everybody feel like, hey, they're a part of it. And then, hey, I got a playoff spot, help coaches keep jobs in situations like that, and not just all go to the big power programs. But overall, it's going to be about the same result, because even with the 4-team playoffs, there were blowouts. And so the blowouts are going to be there because the disparity between how much talent I got and recruited versus what you have, you can't out-coach that, because I've got so much of a talent disparity. So, but I'll be glad to see when it happens. No more complaining. Just let's go out there and play, get the seeding right. I don't love it, but I'm still gonna watch. I think it'll still be, obviously, like Trey is saying here, it's definitely for the business. And the only thing I'll say, the only caveat I'll throw is this. Last year I missed the Texas game versus Clemson. I got to watch the first half, but I was worried because that was Texas high school championship weekend. And my daughter's high school won state, so I wasn't gonna miss that. And then now the NFL basically showed, hey, some of the territory y'all are getting to, this is our territory. So ratings wise, it might not be exactly what they want. They may have to cater to, hey, big brother NFL is here. We need to move our games. So that's the only thing they run into. But the core hardcore fans are going to watch. What you got, Coach Trey? I see you shaking your head.
Hey man, listen, this is probably the 1-2 times a year I agree with Trey, man. Listen, I'm saying this: the top 25 teams should always be in the playoff. What it is. They got a top 25 for the last all y'all life. It's been a top 25. It's about the money. If a kid can go to college and play 4 years, 5 years, and get $200,000 a year, what the hell? I'm all for the kids. I'm all for the young men and young women. So top 25, they're going to come, because college ain't about old ass niggas like us working. It's about the student environment. So the students will fill up 3/4 of the stadium by themselves, because that's already in their school playing. But they show up, and that's what it's about, the money and the revenue. So I would go 25. I think they're going to stop at the top 25, because that could be a Cinderella. And it ain't about the dudes that you get out of high school. It's how you build the team up that you got. See, it ain't about, it might be the first year when that first tough squad, you get them top 20 recruits, they first year, they all trying to beat out the other dude who worked to that position. He might have been a walk-on. But I think if you can coach him to that, like you see in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, the Southern teams, y'all got warm weather all year round. So y'all grow up to be 6'3", 230, 240. But, so I think the college game, expand to 25, man. I'm all for it. Y'all go watch that shit too. Might even go to a game if y'all get a ticket.
So how many games are we going to be talking? How many games are we going to be talking about then? You're not going to shorten the season. You're still going to have like a 12 game season plus the tournament games, championship games. And then how many more games are you going to add to it? So are we going to get like the NFL where it's going to be like 16 game season for these players? I mean, again, look, if they're going to play at the NFL level, they're going to have to adapt to that anyway. Are they going to say they're going to adopt it in college, where a lot of these top programs are going to be playing 14, 15 games a year?
I would just shorten the season to 10-game regular season. Simple as that. And then the rest playoffs. I mean,
now we did see in the last playoffs, the length of that season was getting to the players just a little bit. It was like,
it got to the week of players.
It's like, man, we're not used to playing this much. It's like it was dropping a little bit, but I said, hey, you might as well get used to it, because a regular season in the NFL is still longer than y'all whole season combined. So, but yeah, it was like it was different.
All right, so move from the college game. I know we talked about the football. So what about the basketball? Again, 72, 78 teams. in the
Now
final.
that they
Again,
don't.
I mean, we look at the ratings for the tournament. I know they got this big TV deal with CBS and whatnot. Is CBS going to want to reconsider this deal? I don't know when the deal is up for the TV rights to cover March Madness with CBS and its partners. But again, are they going to be one to re-up? And again, will going to 78 teams, will that, in your opinion, move the needle in terms of viewership of these games when you see these lower seeds? Or and then, certainly no one watches NIT tournament that much. So again, a lot of those NIT teams are going to be now in that field of, I guess, 72 or 78. So again, does this move the needle in any substantive way? I mean, I'm just trying to see how the math's going to math here. I mean, what's that going to look like? Is that going to increase viewership, except for these markets where these teams are, where these teams are from? So Dante, let me start with you on that one. What do you think of the college basketball strategy to increase to 72 or 78?
I don't like it. I like the number where it is. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie to you. I went to a FCS school, so my team unfortunately always has to play in that first four. But by playing in those levels, those are teams that you can beat. So you come out and you're like, hey, you win a game in the conference. That's a wonderful feeling. But going to more of it, I just don't see that really being a benefit. I would say, if anything, the blue blood programs have to find a way to be stronger, be better in the tournament. That will increase the viewership. And then when you get those strong Cinderellas, which I think Cinderellas are going to be strong as ever, when you get those guys transferring and you get the right pieces and the right coach. But I don't see it being a benefit moving to that many teams. I think the 68 is the sweet spot.
Coach?
Go ahead, Coach.
I almost know what you're going to say, but what's your thoughts?
You on mute.
Even with both of these sports, as far as
Coach,
an
you muted, sir.
expansion, with both of these sports, as far as an expansion, I'm all for it. However, the reality of it is there's not enough time to extend the games like that. It's just not enough time. That's why they have it set up the way they have it. So each sports and each season can have its own sports, in a sense. You can't really have the college players playing a playoff from Thanksgiving through December, because you do have finals. Then you come back to a new semester and they still trying to play it. That'll go into what? Damn near the Super Bowl almost. So I think, it's just time, but they go figure it out. They haven't already figured it out. And it might stop at this number of teams here, but teams are going to continue to conference each other as they build their program. So the money's there, though. Shit, every kid go to college now. It don't matter if you can play sports. Go to college. They paying your ass to learn some new stuff.
So Trey is saying it can start right after the Super Bowl. But again, you got your conference play that happens, and then your conference tournaments right after that. I mean, these kids usually get a break. You may have to take their breaks away, their winter breaks, if you're going to have them playing all these games.
On the sports teams, you don't get no winter break like that. You don't get no day. You might get a day or two on the sport. If you playing sports and your team is winning, they have games during that little holiday. So you ain't really, you with the team. You ain't going home to grandmama and not cousin. You with the team for the most part.
So would you, similar to your football proposal, would you consider lowering the number of games, maybe? Because what's a season like? Usually 32
well,
games, 32 games.
They average in between 28 and 32. They average between 28 and 32.
So would you mind dropping it down to say 20, 25?
But again, like I said, time.
So would you drop it to say 25?
25? Yeah, 25 they might can be able to fit it in, but still, you wouldn't be able to. What they got, 64? You couldn't go no more than 72. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Trey's like, he can go to 125. You got 355 teams. You can expand it to 125.
Okay. Dang, okay, 40 to 45. Okay, then go ahead.
So definitely treat it. Now that they are professionals, now they're getting paid. So look, start earning some money back. But yeah, I mean, interesting strategy. We'll see how college handles this going forward. I mean, I think the with the CFP, I think they're certainly going to be much more aggressive in pushing that and getting that through more so than the basketball. But we'll see we'll see on both sides, considering how this turns out. But certainly coming to the main block, last 30 minutes of the show. So obviously we have the big game coming up. So again, the finals start tomorrow night, NBA finals. So again, you have two in a lot of ways very certainly compatible teams. Certainly young, deep benches, great coaching. So this is I think, contrary to Black Man and Filter's points earlier, I think this series will rate much better than predicted. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'll certainly be glued into every game. Very comparable matchups. I think certainly Oklahoma suffocate defense. They got the two twin towers, the 7-footers, certainly in their lineups. But again, the Pacers, they're just as deep. They can, they're both very competent 3-point shooting team. So it's almost like they're kind of mirrors of each other. So you'll start with Shawnee. Who do you have certainly winning the series? What are your key takeaways from this matchup coming up? What should we be looking for?
And I've been on the OKC train all year, so I'm just gonna finish it off. I believe Thunder's gonna take this one, and I believe they'll take it in five. I think
Oh,
it'll
okay.
be an entertaining series, but I think Thunder's defense. Because I don't know if I mentioned it on the show or during our little texting, the Thunder reminds me of the Heat, the way they will turn. It'll be a close game, and then all of a sudden they just cause turnovers. Bow, 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 bow. Next thing you know, the turnovers fast break. Next thing you know, you look at the scoreboard, you down double digits. And that's what the Heat used to do in the LeBron era. It was a close game, and next thing you know, there was this hit you with these flurry of turnovers, and now you calling a timeout because you down by 10 to 12. So OKC do the same thing, and they have their bench. It's like they already a good defensive team with their starting five, and then the players they grab from the bench are also all league type defenders. As you know, some of them was they didn't obviously they wasn't on a defensive team, but like Casey Wallace, he was getting defensive team votes. So it just goes on. So like they just have they just come at you with defenders. All can move their feet. All have like some size on them. Um, the thing about it because and I heard somebody analyzing the game like this. New York Towns would have been an issue with them because he would have been bullying Holmgren and Hartenstein to get into the inside because that's what he was doing with Miles Turner. That's why Indiana has such a hard time defending Cat. And then he'll take him outside to shoot the three or whatnot. But Cat was bullying Turner as far as getting to the rim. And I believe he would have been doing the same thing with OKC. But now that Knicks ain't not in there, so now you're gonna have Miles Turner who is gonna have to kind of play a mid-range game versus the OKC big men, just like how Chet be doing. But Chet is, I believe, well, they both good defenders. Him and Turner are both good defenders. But it's just the way the OKC they can defend at the perimeter. Then they have Chet, waiting for him at the rim, and that is just what I believe will be the ultimate. Because I believe they have a defense to kind of give Halliburton some fits per se. Because I already know if Halliburton goes and starts having any type of rhythm, you already know what they're gonna do. They're gonna put Lou Dort on him, and Lou Dort basically took out Julius Randle at the last series. Lou Dort was holding Edwards at times too. So it's they might even have to put Dort on it because Williams can hold Halliburton. So it's just the waves of defenders that they have, and then so it's gonna really force Indiana, which I believe they can, because Indiana can score on anybody. I believe Indiana can score on anybody. So I believe it will be an entertaining series, but I just believe OKC will have. I think they just have a better clutch player, more consistent clutch player with SGA, and even Jalen Williams when he starts getting hot. So yeah, I have OKC, and then what Black Man was talking about, I guess the worst NBA finals. Nah, I believe it's going to be entertaining. I believe the finals when Golden State had KD that first season. Many people just like, man, we already know who's going to win the championship. They were like, as soon that they acquired KD, many people were like, man, I don't even worry about this next season because you already knew it was going to happen. That's exactly what happened. They just ran through the NBA like nobody was a challenge for them. Only team, the best team that challenged them like the whole season was the Rockets, but they even lost to them. So I believe is it the sexiest NBA finals because the two teams? No. And I believe this is the people in the mainstream media or maybe the casual fan, they may complain about it because there'd be no marquee players that they can watch. But if you like a fan of the game and the way the basketball is going to be played with these two teams, because neither one of these two teams is just like they just don't stand still and dribble, dribble, dribble. You're gonna see ball movement, you're gonna see passing, you're gonna see defense, you're gonna see up tempo basketball, you know. So if you like that, it should be a entertaining series for you. But if you just so stuck on the lack of big time names, even though SGA won an MVP, SGA is still just not a big time name per se. He's known in the basketball community, but just like how we always had that superstar debate, will the outside of the basketball community, will they be tuning in? They may just get stuck because OKC and Indiana, So if you worry about the names, okay, it may not be your cup of tea. But if you love the sport of basketball and enjoy pay attention to styles, these two team styles are very similar. It's gonna be up tempo basketball, so you ain't gonna really be complaining about one team slowing the pace down. You're gonna see good ball movement, so you ain't gonna be complaining about like a James Harden type player who dribble, dribble, dribble. So I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
enjoy it. Black man, I
Yeah,
guess he's
this
a
might be
blacklist,
the
so I just want
first.
it out there.
Yeah, this might be the first finals that I can remember in years where you didn't necessarily have a quote unquote superstar marquee marketing name in the games themselves. You would have one team like that Detroit,
And
that
that's cool.
2004,
That's cool.
that 2004 Detroit team. They beat the Lakers, but again, the Lakers had all those stars. They had Kobe. They had all those guys on it. You'd have to probably go back to, and Coach and I would probably be the only ones to remember this. I mean, like Seattle Supersonics and Washington Bullets back in '79, something like that, where none of those guys were like, they weren't Dr. J, they weren't, the main stars of that era, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and those guys. But yeah, I'm trying to remember. Certainly, I would say I'll say in the last 25 years, where you had teams where you didn't have at least one guy, someone who was the guy, or one team that didn't have those guys. Like I said, this is as balanced as we can see it, with no defined superstar, even though these are very good players. I don't think the term superstar applies to any of these guys. And then the other question I'll have before I go and turn it over to Dante is, will a superstar emerge from this? Whoever wins this series, will that person, especially if that person's MVP or whatever, will that person be will that go to that level? Is it possible? Is it possible here? So
the superstars already emerged. It's just now who's going to just take their game to the next level. They already here. SGA, he's already there.
But again,
but
wait a minute. So we've talked about this before. How are you defining superstar?
They're not. They all young. They only been in the league, what, 4 years, 5 years?
That's what you stand over here. I'm saying from these two teams,
SGA has already, his star is already there. But his star can rise
right now. So right as of now, you think
right
SGA is a superstar?
Yeah, in the league, he's considered a superstar player right now.
Okay. All right. I may disagree. I think superstardom goes
you see how he leads his team. He leads his team in scoring and everything. That's a superstar. He averaged what, 30-something? A superstar average points. There's no superstar in the league in the last 20 years that wasn't the leading scorer on this team.
But I think with Mr. Ben, because and we're not denying his on the court productivity.
That's right.
That's where it counts.
But
that's where it counts.
Superstar also, when you want to go superstar, it also includes your
commercials and all that.
Ratings.
Are you talking about commercials? If you talking about commercials,
I'm talking about ratings. I'm talking about who fills arenas. Does
He
SGA? He's coming
If
into
SGA
town. Is he
I feel like
filling?
this.
I don't think
If
so.
SGA was a superstar right now, we would not be having this conversation and people talking about this going to be a boring series because people will be tuning
But those are
in just to see
non-basketball
SGA.
players.
But that's what we say.
That's
He's not a
just the
superstar
fan.
now.
They're a
What
fan. They
basketball
feed
players?
into the
Wait a
superstar,
minute.
but as far as the court,
Jordan, Magic, Bird, LeBron, all those guys are superstars. So obviously it's the game also. We're not denying
but
the
who
game.
was? But
is
who
the
was a
game
stu-
plus
okay?
part.
So who was a superstar last year and won the championship?
That's
I
a
would
good
say
question. I don't think any of those guys.
Luka wasn't
Luka
a
was the
superstar.
star player.
I won't say any
He
of those
wasn't
guys.
a superstar
None of those
until
But see, we're throwing different things on it. If saying the superstar, we're saying you gotta. I know that's why it's tough to say. You just gotta say a great player or a star player because Luka puts butts in seats. Luka puts butts in seats, and so I want to say Tatum more so, not much. But Tatum was a guy that's been in front of America for I don't know how many Eastern Conference Finals, basically since he came into the league almost.
What TV ad have you seen Luka in?
Luka is more of an
Is he in a
international.
Gatorade commercial?
Luka's
He's
international.
not even in a Gatorade.
I would say Luka's international, so I don't know what's there, but I know because I know he's a name there, and I know he's a name here because he's with Jordan Brand. But as far as the commercial ads, I would say the ads are probably going to come. I got a strong prediction that they're going to come. But what I'll say is I know it, Coach Berg. You can't separate the fact of the appeal. What we're trying to say is
market. Hold on. We talk about the market that he's in. OKC small market. It's always going to be small.
Not the market, but you can. There was a superstar that used to be at OKC. He used to wear 35. His name is Kevin Durant. And when they went to arenas, they packed it out. He's a signature Nike athlete, so he was very popular. A lot of national televised games.
After what year? Hold up. After what year?
I'm talking about early in his career.
How many years was he in the league? First 5 years, 6 years, something like that?
Within the first 5 years, KD had popped. He was starting to get.
How many years SGA been in the league? It's his third year?
No. He's been in the league since 2018 because he was in that draft. He played, I think, the rookie year was like 2018, and then he got traded. He was with the Clippers, then he got traded. So he's been in the league a while. It's just that he was part of the Kentucky crew where they come in, the one and done team. So it's just like my thing is, I was watching a podcast earlier on Bomani Jones, and he said, hey, he's worked on that aspect of his game to be in the commercials. And like they said, you can't help it. The commercials are bad. 2019. Okay. So it's a thing where he's been in the league a while. And my thing is, we're not taking away from his game. I think as good as he is, as great as he is, that's going to lead to finals ratings when people tune in casually and watch it tomorrow night. They're going to be like, oh, he's pretty good. When they see Halliburton and Indiana's style of play, they're going to be like, this is exciting. This is exciting. And I think this finals is more than just who the marquee names are. I got OKC winning in 6. And what's going to give them, I think, some trouble is most of the people on OKC side haven't been here before. Rick Carlisle has been here before. He's been the underdog team to the big superstars, actual superstar team with the big 3 in Miami, and he took them down because they had some advantages.
And also Pascal.
And Pascal's been there.
Yeah, I say,
so I was like, you have
Dante. He
two
don't
guys.
have no Dirk. He don't have no Dirk.
He does not have a Dirk. That is very true.
He was career. Dirk was done after that year.
No, he was that, but the Dirk was that was at the peak and still the prime that year when he went. Like that playoff run was amazing.
It was he was on the far side.
He was
in
that final.
15. He was at his end point. I mean, but he probably had another year or two, but they stripped the team from him, which I still that's gonna always haunt Cuban. But bigger than the Luka deal, that's always gonna haunt him. Always gonna haunt him.
So fellas, so what player in the league right now who was an MVP, led their team in scoring, and wasn't a superstar? When you get to that point, you're not the superstar. What player in the league?
Listen, I never consider Steve Nash a superstar.
No,
Steve Nash was not a superstar.
Steve Nash wasn't.
I wouldn't pick him over.
There's only like 5 to 6 superstars in the league, possibly at a time, and that's just depending on the era. At any given time. Like that, it's tough to meet that.
It was Bird, Magic, and Dr. J. And those were the only guys who were on that level. And then Jordan came into the league a few years later, and then he was kind of, Dr. J came off, Jordan came in after that, and so on. So you're talking about the elites of the elites. You're talking about beyond all-star. You're talking about first team and beyond. Like I said, there's a marketing
he's
aspect
first
of
team
this
and
that we
beyond the
cannot
last
deny.
2 years though. He's been first team.
But
and
we're talking
Yeah.
about the marketability. Like, let's talk about a player. He didn't win any championships, but
he
because
plays
of
in OKC.
you know what I'm saying, marketability wise, it doesn't matter about the market size. Look at Charles Barkley. Look at the polarizing figure. That's what you could say. You could say instead of a superstar with Hall of Fame game and marketability. And if you see his face, he has driven the TNT show for 20 something years off of his personality alone. If you put SGA as currently standing his career and you put him on the Tonight Show on the show about basketball, he's going to be off of that show because he's not going to drive ratings. These people like
Okay.
So that's the thing about superstar.
I give in, right? Because I can understand. I'm looking at it. I'm all into the sports game and how as far as the casual, let me step out of that mind frame. But to me, SGA is one of the top 5 players. All of those players are superstar status. He's in the superstar status as of the last 2 years. What he's been able to do, he's been unstoppable. He's not gonna.
They won 68 games. I'm with
He
you.
He doesn't care about standing out on the stage with some bell-bottom jeans on.
He's very apparently he's very humble. He drives.
He's married. He's laid back. So I can understand.
He doesn't have a luxury car. He doesn't wear nice clothes. He's a very down-to-earth guy. He does a lot of charitable
like a
stuff.
Tim Duncan. He's like a Tim Duncan.
And Tim Duncan was a superstar. Wasn't a superstar either. Again, Hall of Fame great, top 50 player.
Wow.
Tim Duncan wasn't a superstar.
Wow. Okay. See. Okay.
In fact, Mr. Bennett, I think that's the answer for us. The last time it was the finals without a superstar, that finals versus the Pistons and the Spurs. I mean, you knew Tim Duncan, but like you said, he's not the flashy guy that you put on the marquee. This is the team they were selling.
I said the
hold on. So they're talking about him being number 1 overall history power forward, and y'all say he ain't a superstar. Okay. I'm just saying I don't make the rules, Coach.
Oh, you looking at everything based on stats and what they produce. I mean, superstar.
He's arguably the quietest star player of all time. Have you heard him interviewed? I mean, did he have any quotables from his career? I mean, Tim Duncan, as great as he is, you can mark him. Look, now I'm biased. I may say Kevin McHale, but I might be biased there. Okay, but
yeah, you biased. You got Boston. You've been liking Boston since you played basketball. So
guilty as charged. I may pick McHale because but you remember McHale used to make people dance back in the day. So he had the craziest moves, post moves of all time. So McHale is up there for me. But
I put it like this. Tim Duncan could have been a superstar, but he wanted no part of that. So it's like his thing was just basketball. Basketball, I don't care about nothing else. So I guess when you look at that superstardom, the superstardom is
the ones to be going to Diddy
and how much, because we could say the same thing about
that's the ones that be superstars.
As Kawhi. Kawhi don't seek superstardom.
Nope.
It's Kawhi superstar though. Y'all consider him a superstar?
No. How can I call him a superstar?
Because he made like the choice. He doesn't do nothing.
Okay.
Like all you could be like what Stephen A calls him, the worst superstar ever, because
worst superstar.
Because he's known. His name is known for his skill set on the court, but he doesn't do. It's like if basically with Kawhi, if he's not playing, because with a superstar can bring money to your team. I'm talking about the franchise as a whole, and not just based on their play on the court.
You got to do some schmoozing.
So they draw. So if Kawhi's not playing on the court, what else is he doing to bring money? He's not going to promote the team. You're not going to really see him. His personality doesn't really attract people because he doesn't really talk like that. So that's why Stephen A. calls him the worst superstar. No
No,
one
why
questions
he
his
call him that?
ability on
Because
the
he
court.
hurt.
hang on. So maybe this
Why?
requires a discussion. We talked about is this the end of the super teams? Are we in an age? Are we saying now this is the end of the superstar? Because you got some
Nah.
guys who said straight up, Ant-Man said, I don't want it. And we saw how he kind of wilted. I mean, certainly OKC had a lot to do with that. He did not show up really in this past series, so he don't want it. He's nowhere near it. So are we in this era now, especially if teams are going to go in this direction where they're not going to be worried about big time free agents or building super teams? They want to have these balanced teams, team basketball and whatnot. Are we saying that is this the end of the super? Because basically the only ones you got left, unfortunately, is Steph and LeBron. When those guys step off, which could possibly be the next, I would say next year at best. It wouldn't surprise me if they retire now, but I'm just saying, let's say if I gave those guys one more year, who is next? I might have said Tatum or Brown from the Celtics. I got to see how Tatum's going to be later. But again, who is next? Luka, again, nobody in America likes Luka. I mean, everybody talks about his deficiencies in his game. Can't play D, not worth the money, not worth the supermax, out of shape all the time. Yes, he's an international guy, but again, that's not going to grow the superstar brand. Are we saying, is that the end of an era where you're not going to have that guy?
Well, it
No,
goes back to what I asked.
not the end.
Who's the face?
Not the end. Not the end. It's not the end.
I would say it's not the end. And the thing is, we can't say about Anthony Edwards, he may not want to be the face, but did you watch the playoffs? Did you see that his shoe released in the middle of the playoffs right after they won the round against the Lakers? Did you see the Sprite commercial that they kept running? Did you see the commercial where he's dunking hey, why do you dunk so much? So you can see my shoes. They are very much lining him up to be the next guy, and he's marketable. But I will say, after this playoff loss, the innocence of him, when you see the star rising, he's past the innocence point. You made the conference finals twice. Now it's time to deliver the ring, and that's how we do. We take our stars and we throw them to the wolves. But that's why you're getting paid that huge salary. So I don't think it's the end. They have to get some guys. There's a hole in the American superstar.
Hold on. Stop. No, man. They got people coming out of the draft, get ready to get drafted. They could be superstars. What we talking about? Cooper Flag is a superstar already.
No, bust. I'm saying it right now. Dookie,
he could be a bust.
I got my train history to the Flag.
He could be a bust, but there's some good young players coming out in this draft.
The last guys who could have been superstars in the league could have been potentially was Zion. Zion.
Once they prove Zion, listen, man. Some of them players, if you look at the NBA and sports in general, most players that are really having success, most of them dudes are settled down in the streets. A lot of the cool dudes having these issues with their health and all that. They doing too much outside of playing basketball. That's what it is. You can look at them; they're all in the streets. But there's a player right now. SGA could be the super coming in the next season. He can be everywhere. Halliburton could be everywhere.
I hope he is. I don't have anything against. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna
shut up. As far as my pick in the series now, Shani, I believe OKC will win, but I believe it's going to go 7 because again, OKC is new, and Halliburton is not Randall. He's not 6'9". Halliburton is a point guard. He can dish that ball. Few players, I think those others are going to be the most important role on both teams. Whoever's others can get consistent play, that's going to determine who wins because the stars of the team are going to sort of cancel each other out. It's going to be who can get the other players involved, who on Jalen Williams, if he shows what he can do every night. Indiana, they're going to have to find somebody. I think Obi Toppin is going to be a key factor because he's tall. He can play D. Siakam is going to have to be 25, 30 every night. I think it's going to come down to those others, and I believe it might go 7.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way too. I think OKC again. The defense is hellacious. They clearly have the size advantage with those 2 7-footers. And I just think that all they have to do, I think they have to affect one of those guys, either Halliburton or Siakam. I think they're going to try to focus and shut one of those guys down. Who's going to step up for them? I don't know. So I just think that OKC has a little more horsepower. But I think for the league's sake, I do hope this goes 7 games. I think it'll be good for the league, and I think certainly be good for ratings as well to see this. But I want to certainly, out of respect for my man Anton, who's been in the building tonight, I just want to certainly report. So at the end of the first period, Panthers over the Oilers 2-1 at the end of the first period. Shout out to you because I know you love your hockey coverage or
Shout out
whatnot.
to Anton, man.
So you can't say I didn't mention hockey doing the segment, but I appreciate you. But I appreciate you being here. But yeah, I mean, I think we might be going away from that. I thought Ja Morant and Zion coming out that year, because all the talk was who was going to be number one. I picked Ja. Most people picked Zion. They had the potential. Zion, because of lack of discipline or whatever it is, or injuries or whatever, can't stay healthy. We all know of Ja's problems off the court, but they were trying to make him, because he was the head of, I think, Vitamin Water. I think he was a big title sponsor for them. So they were pushing him as the next exciting game. I mean, explosive, exciting game. Certainly a guy that, you want to have your eyes on during the game. Certainly he had the potential for that, but he didn't want it. So again, I don't know who's going to be next. And again, with the influx of all these European players, I'm not saying that. I mean, Giannis probably, I would say, is probably the most marketable European star. Is probably Giannis in the NBA, and he's had some success. Certainly, for I would put him in that I would say superstar status, or as close to it. He might be the closest one to a superstar outside of Steph and LeBron that we may have in the league right now. KD's star is fading, I think. Booker never stepped up to be a star either. So again, very few. So I may put it on Giannis to be that. But again,
so what about Wembanyama? Is he a superstar?
No.
I feel Wemby like in the same boat as Luka. They international. But once they start, they both have international fame. But now you wait for that international fame to make it over here in the States. And they need Luka had a chance.
It's coming. Luka's is coming.
He had that stage last season in the finals. So that's when really people started following Luka. But then all of a sudden this year, everybody talking about all this stuff like his weight and stuff. Wemby, if it depends, just like how SGA now, you mentioned this is the third time SGA has made first team All NBA, but people wasn't talking about SGA like that. If the playoffs make your name, if you show up in the playoffs, then your name will grow. Now, when going back to the point you were talking about, I believe Zion had a chance to become a superstar. Remember, Zion in college was like Caitlin Clark. They was following him.
Yeah, he had a million YouTube followers in high school.
You remember that game that Duke and
potential was there.
UNC game? Everybody was there at that game. That's when he blew out his shoe. And then when he came to the NBA, it was, it's basically been down here, especially if he got that woman making this life hell over there. But I believe he had a great chance of being a face, because it was just natural with him. But now you really don't know who will be the face. Right now, there's I believe Ant-Man. I think people were trying to give it to Ant-Man, but this latest playoff performance, even though he played well in the beginning, but people's going to remember your latest round, and he kind of fade away,
But could he be the face, even just giving his stuff with the paternity and, paying the woman for the life of the kid?
He would have to be greatly successful, I believe, for that, because that means people right now. And the thing about it is, because social media look like everybody has everybody can view everything. It's like no matter how great you are on your respective field of play, there's always just going to be people looking at the bad stuff, because social media, it always just pop out. It'll always pop out. So, will basically the NBA community will have to give the face title, I guess, to Ant-Man. But I guarantee you, because of some of the stuff that's off the court, that other crowd if the more spotlight NBA community try to shine on him, that other crowd will be shining their spotlight just as
Man,
bright. So
listen,
that's the thing about it.
Shawnee, listen, man. As far as a superstar, ain't gonna be no more single dudes being a superstar. All of them gonna be married, family men going forward. That's
Yeah,
gonna
that's
be the
it. I
superstar.
mean, look, Ant-Man said, "Look, I don't
You
want to be a
going to the
father."
club because he know he's irresponsible.
That's
He know
basically what
that.
he said. Here,
So,
take the million, take it now, whatever, and leave me alone. That's
Yeah,
what basically.
yeah.
That's
I
basically what he
mean, that
said.
was
No brand, like family brand, wants to be behind something like that. You know what I mean? So again, I think that's again NBA level and certain brands or whatnot, especially in certain communities. Yeah, I think he'll be a very popular player. But again,
It's the
that
opposite.
superstar, because we talked about that last week. Most of the star in any sport, when Tiger
Mhm.
Woods was at his apex, he had that wife. He had like the model wife. He had the perfect family situation until you found out
Yeah,
all that stuff was going on.
because the thing is, when you have the family, it's the shield. So let's be, what you've heard. There's a lot of guys doing stuff like what Tiger did, but it's the shield. You don't know until it comes out. And now Tiger was at the right before the social media age, and now it's completely the social media age. So more than likely, it's going to get out unless you're just super ziplock tight with it. So which some players are, it doesn't come out. But
Mhm.
But right
my thing
now,
is.
WNBA they
Yeah,
can do stuff
KD,
similar.
you right. I mentioned that about KD. KD is the only one I can think of that's a bachelor, but a superstar because the game is so
But hang
great
on,
and he focused on the game.
but are we talking about? But hang on, we're talking about two different things now, right? So again, there's levels to all of this, right? You got all
Mhm.
star players, you got all NBA players, you have stars, you have superstars. We're talking about face. Was KD ever the
Yeah.
face
Not
of the
the
league?
not the face of the league, but he was one of the top guys. But my thing is,
NBA, no doubt, no
what
doubt.
He
transitioned
was a
him
superstar.
was when he won the MVP and the mama thing. I want to say mom is the MVP. They was able to take that instead of the family issue with the girlfriend or the wife. They was able to say, "Oh, he's a mom as well," and they took that. And when I've been in these gyms in those times where KD's at his peak, and then him going to the Warriors, that also propelled him to get him to another level of the superstardom. So I'll definitely say he was one of those guys that was there and winning the two finals MVPs. Winning the
Mhm.
two finals MVPs and those championships had him at that level. And he was certainly, I would say, a superstar.
Yeah. But them cameras love, all I'm saying is after you win that championship, those cameras love having those kids on your lap. That's all I'm saying. It
They
just
do. They do. It's a
Steph
cheat code.
became the household word when his daughter got out there and she had all that personality and stuff and yawning and all that kind of stuff. They just love that, especially for
They eat it
mainstream.
up.
Yeah, for sure. And now with social media, now you could also say, look, you don't need mainstream. Social media can make you as much a superstar than anything. If you got 10 million followers, you can say bump the national TV ads, whatever. You don't need so we also have to consider that also. When I'm talking about I guess I'm talking more mainstream, but you can't deny social media either. And you got some of these guys like The Rock has like 100 million followers or something like that, some crazy number
Some
of
number like that.
yeah. So again, you don't have to be necessarily in the space, and maybe some guys are just moving away from that and creating their own lane. So that's another reason why I'm saying that traditional superstar era might be era, at least the way we remember it, with Bird, Jordan, Magic, and all the stuff that with those guys what that
And
used to
they're, and they're
represent.
They're
Peyton
building the
Manning in the
guys like
NFL.
factories. They're building like factories where they're taking especially the basketball players, they're taking them and they're putting them on these boarding schools and they're getting you ready for this professional job, basically since you're 14, 15, and that takes like a lot of their personality away. Like you can't mean to tell me a player as great as Jason Tatum is, other than like I'm watching him on the Netflix show, the starting five, but it's like you're still waiting for the personality to come out and it just you don't really see it, but you respect how good the game is. You respect the
Yeah.
fact always in the mix for a championship, played for a title twice and won one. So, you see it. But it's just like it's hard to get that out of players, and you're not gonna have the super teams anymore.
Gotcha.
So that doesn't help to arise it, except for OKC. That's the last cheat code because of what Sam Presti did and the moves they made. They got guys young enough to where they can, even if they go into the apron, they can keep it because somebody that could develop into a big star would be Chet Holmgren because he has the profile and he has the game. Just got to stay healthy.
Absolutely. I got to take advantage. Tommy being in the building tonight, I would have loved to get your opinion tonight on the Knicks coaching situation. What are your thoughts on Mark Jackson, since you from Oaktown? Mark Jackson, New York native, St. John's University. Could he be the next head coach of the NBA, or is what he did in Oakland, is that basically a done deal? Because my man has not been able to get back into the NBA since.
Show him the
So
line,
I would like to see. I would like to hear whatever. Love to have heard your perspective too. If you want to drop that in the chat, real quick as we come up towards the end of the show. But we're certainly getting down to it. So again, I think Shawnee had OKC in 5. Dante had OKC in 6. Coach Ferg, you go on either 6 or 7. I think him and I. So I think all of us are basically picking OKC to win the series. And so, certainly, I just think that they just have more firepower. And I think that defense is going to be suffocating. And I think, but I'm just hoping for a very entertaining series where at least the home teams protect home court. But I think OKC, I think they're going to take this. But certainly, final thoughts, gentlemen, as we conclude the show. Good show, and looking forward to a good series. So we'll start again with Shawnee, and we'll just rotate down. And as always, we'll close out with the coach.
Well, I just been looking over during the show at the this women's softball game between Texas and Texas Tech, and I believe I probably saw one of the worst calls I've seen. Basically, when there was a Texas Tech player trying to steal second, and the camera angle clearly shows her being tagged out, and you saw her being tagged, and then she slid into the base, and other team challenged it for whatever reason, and they won a challenge. And just so happened, it never fails in baseball. You may, after a play like that, then a couple of batters later hit a bloop single. That player ultimately comes to score. Now Texas Tech is up 1-0, but just that was probably one of the worst calls, replays I've probably seen in a baseball / softball game. So yeah, that's my final thoughts. I'm just over here watching these. I can't complain. Got 2 Texas schools in the finals, in the softball finals. So, but just that call, I have no idea what they saw in that. So my final thoughts. I'm just giving a shout out to the women's softball. They've been having some. I've been watching a couple of games during this World Series, and they've been pretty good. And I believe Texas Tech. I don't know which player, but we know about college football and basketball, how they players are getting paid. But apparently, I believe Texas Tech played a young lady, and her NIL is over $1 million, and she, I don't know if she's the pitcher now or whatnot, but she is one of the sole factors that they made it to. Because Texas Tech beat the great Oklahoma, so even the women softball, they're spending money for these to improve their team. So I believe that's a discussion we need to have. One of our shows about the purity of college sports, because right now I know we was always in favor of players getting paid. I didn't know it was going to be like this. Like I always thought, like, okay, you can make money signing autographs and stuff like that. 'Cause they couldn't do that before. But this and how we seeing it now, especially in college football, how like the after effects is having on the sports. If you're a purist on the sport, what is your thoughts? Do you think like, okay, college football, y'all, college sports, y'all need to rein something in. Y'all need some standards. But right now it's a wild, wild west, and it's impacting the game. It's just not the players getting their money, but I think it is having a negative impact on the game. So, congratulations, players, you getting paid, but that money not coming to me. I just want to see a good product on the field. And what I'm seeing now, I'm seeing like kind of watered down. So, I believe that should be a topic of in one of our future shows, maybe close to we get the college season or whatnot.
Gotcha. Dante, you muted.
You're on mute.
Muted. I would say for my final thought, I don't know if they was watching us or what happened, but Adam Silver confirmed that next year's All-Star game is going to be USA versus the world.
Yes.
I'm going with Team USA. USA.
Yes.
He said that today in an interview. He said in an interview because the games are going to be back on NBC. the All-Star game is going to be on NBC because they're leaving TNT. And he said that it's going to coincide with, it's going to be the Winter Olympics. And it's going to coincide, like, I want to say the same day the Winter Olympics start, or like around the same time it's going to be. So it's going to be Team USA versus the world. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they heard it.
I don't
They
care.
got, let's just say, I don't care if they got it from us or wherever. Let's go with it.
You just got me
Let's do
interested
it.
in the All-Star game for the first time in 20 years. So
Yeah, I'm watching. I don't watch the All-Star game anymore. I don't watch, for whatever reason, I don't watch award shows or All-Star games very much. And I'm locked in for this one because everybody's going to pick the world. This is, hey, man, this is year 23 for LeBron. I think this is the last straw. I hope it is. So he go out and looking pretty, like he's been looking pretty good. Second team All-NBA. Got Steph. Just need the stars healthy. I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be a show. I think this is going to get the competitive juices going.
There you go. There you go. I'll give mine before the end. So again, story just came through an hour ago. So Major League Baseball is about to approve the ABS system, which is essentially a challenge system for balls and strikes. So again, I think they have the votes to get it in, so it could be implemented next year. So again, the rules are you're going to get 2 challenges in a game. If you win your challenge, you keep your challenges. If you win, but again, you can challenge a ball strike call, and they'll use this system to do it. For what I understand, in the minor leagues, they also have a check swing system that they're testing out in the minor leagues right now as well. So again, I don't know if this won't result in shorter games. Certainly, I would probably look forward to the time when they just go all automated, just to make the games faster. But certainly, this will be, I think, a welcome addition to Major League Baseball. Long overdue, because again, the way some of these strike zones, I mean, shout out to like Tom Glavine and those guys from the Braves. They made that strike zone 4 feet wide. And I'm like, there's no way that could be a strike, but they had a way of doing that. And I think they got more successful careers out of it because of that. So, I'm definitely looking forward to that for baseball next year. Shout out to them for trying to advance the game and make it, make the games shorter, but also make them more fair. So I appreciate that. But we'll wrap up.
I want to piggyback off what you since you just brought up baseball. Just one quick point, I guess. Man, I consider that a good note, but maybe the sour note. Rob Manfred says that President Trump's support of Pete Rose was a factor in his decision to lift the ban. So I was like, damn, that's one thing you don't want to admit. Now you're going to make that man head even bigger, man.
Gotcha.
Here come the MAGA.
Yep. Coach.
Hey, man, first of all, man, I want to salute to everybody who go to college, man, and play sports, man. I don't give a damn. If your kid half slow, send their ass to college, go get some of that money. Yes, go get your NIL deal from whatever school. We see that there's millions and millions of dollars every year. There you go. He go get him an NIL too, little buddy. We going to get you an NIL too when you go to college too. Go get the money. Stay in school, get your 4-year degree. I don't care. Do something that's going to be futuristic degree, though. Hopefully something futuristic. Where you ain't got to do all that extra. But listen, man, salute to college sports, man. Salute to the NBA this year. Finally got a good – I think this is going to be one of the most intrigued championships when it's all said and done. A lot of players are going to become evolving into those. I believe a few players are already going to be elevated to the superstar status, but a lot of players are going to establish who they are. So I'm all for this. You know what I'm saying? NBA finals. I can't wait till tomorrow. But yeah, man, for all of us who are just sitting on the sideline, let's do some push-ups, doing commercials. Let's get some in shape. There you go, brother Bennett. See that? See, that's at 55 and over. It ain't that 40 and under. That's at 55 and over. So y'all come on, get y'all some of these guns for the summer, you young guys. And listen, man, stay safe. Keep your family safe, man. Eat healthy. Everybody get their check. This is Men's Month. So all the men, go get your damn checkups. Go do it. Set an appointment before the end of June.
Absolutely. And Father's Day is in a couple weeks. So again, certainly fathers, make sure you get yourself checked out so you're going to be around. But but it looks like, for all this news that's coming in, 2026 is going to be one of the most interesting years in sports. A lot of transformational changes in the game, competition, availability or access to teams, opportunities, and whatnot. So 2026 is already shaping up that it's going to be quite a transformational year across the board in sports. And I think a lot of these organizations, certainly have a lot of things in plan for us. But again, I want to thank everybody for coming in on the One-on-One Sports Show here. Again, thanks for coming in. Just make sure you hit the like button certainly before you leave the show tonight. Really helps the algorithm. And also be sure to follow up for, again, replays of the show, as well as shorts that are released from the Black Man Unfiltered Network. So any major points, you see those as well. But make sure you be sure to follow the Black Man Unfiltered Network. So until the next time we see you again, for myself, Mr. Bennett, for Shawnee, for Dante and Son, and Coach, as always, in the building tonight. You guys take care. God bless. And we'll see you next time.